Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you in whatever time zone you live in. We're pleased to bring to you the Think Development in Africa. Once a month, we invite you to explore with us the development challenges facing the African continent, with specialists from the BNETD, known as the National Technical Studies and Development Office. We welcome you in joining us as we dissect the topic of sustainable development in Africa and get a glimpse of the different development projects being implemented across the continent. In our first program, we venture to Benin and learn about this West African nation's policy of internationalization with our guest, our DonMello, Director General of the Ivorian National Technical Studies and Development Office, whose insight and expertise on this topic is no doubt most invaluable. So come along with me. Director General, good evening.
Good evening, Madam.
How would you describe the BNETD, the National Technical Studies and Development Office, briefly?
It is difficult to sum up the National Studies and Development Office, BNETD, in just a few words. The organization has at least 1,100 agents deployed in 17 departments across all economic sectors. Perhaps a short clip of the organization will give us a better understanding of what the BNETD is about.
Since independence, the Ivorian government has put together a massive development program for the country. Large infrastructural projects have been undertaken under this program. From 1978, it was initially managed by the then Directorate of Public Works, today known as the BNETD. It was commissioned to conduct studies in areas of national interests, ensuring that projects be implemented with due consideration to cost efficiency, quality, and meeting deadlines. More than a quarter of a century later, the BNETD builds on a long and rich legacy that saw the designing and construction of a more than 4,000 kilometers tarred road network throughout Ivory Coast, as well as a number of public buildings such as the Yamoussoukro Basilica of Our Lady, government office blocks in Abidjan, and the homes of parliamentarians in Yamoussoukro. BNETD has successfully combined efficiency and ingenuity in carrying out a privatization program in the 1990s as part of the IMF Structural Adjustment Program. In fact, they were able to display tremendous skills in structuring and negotiating concessions, whether for public works or the private sector. Such projects involved the upgrading and expansion of the Félix Houphouët-Boigny International Airport and the transfer of the country's political capital to Yamoussoukro. An engine of South-South cooperation, the BNETD today shares its know-how with other African countries, namely Benin, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, the Comoros, Gabon, Ghana, Equatorial Guinea, Liberia, Mali, Nigeria, the DRC, Senegal, and Togo, where BNETD branches have been established. BNETD even has an office in Europe, where it established a relationship with partners who give the organization exposure to cutting-edge technology, knowledge, working methods, and access to partnerships in specific sectors. BNETD is planning to create a major database center in addition to being at the forefront of development activities in Africa, as well as a facilitator for globalization of African economies. Ivory Coast, here we are. Africa awaits us, and we yearn for the world. In the inserts that we've just watched, we learnt about BNET's offices in various African countries. What motivates BNET to spread its wings outside of the Ivory Coast?
Oh well, our experiences at BNET shows us that Africans are able to implement large-scale complex projects and equally see these development projects through from start to finish. President Sous Gbagbo instructed us to share our expertise with the rest of Africa so that Africa starts to take ownership of its development and implement its own large-scale development projects. As a result, we have presence all over Africa and also beyond Africa's borders. But for now, our intentions are simply to share our experiences and expertise with Africa.
Very good. The Burundian president visited the BNET. Is it part of your expansion strategy?
Certainly, our objective is to grow the organization continentally. We're quite pleased to have gotten as far as we have, and we're looking forward to including Burundi in our portfolio of partners.
Ladies and gentlemen, on Wednesday the 28th of February 2007, the BNET had the pleasure to receive the President of Burundi. Here are the highlights of the visit.
We are quite pleased with the quality of work of the BNET. We are further impressed with the progress of project implementation, and we hope that what we've seen here can be replicated in our country, as well as throughout the continent. I thank you.
Will an office soon be set up in Burundi?
The presidents of both nations have agreed to an MOU, which will detail the cooperation between the two countries. Establishing a branch in Burundi is in line with our strategic expansion program. So we're looking forward to setting up office in Bujumbura soon.
In which countries has BNET set up offices?
We're not in all countries as yet. Currently, we are presently primarily in the West and Central African regions. In West Africa, we are in Benin, Guinea, Conakry, and also in Liberia. We also have missions in other West African countries. In Central Africa, we can be found in Equatorial Guinea, and we're setting up an agency in the Congo as we speak. We're also in Libreville, Gabon, where we have an agency.
Besides a visit from the President of Burundi, did you receive a delegation from the Central African Republic?
Yes, indeed. Upon the request of President Bozize, we undertook a mission to the Central African Republic, during which we worked with the Prime Minister's office. Our efforts were rewarded with the signed partnership convention between BNET and the government of the Central African Republic.
Did you also receive a Chinese delegation?
Yes, as you are aware, China finances many projects in Africa, and it is in that vein that we received a Chinese delegation that is interested in a number of projects. As in the case of the Ivory Coast, all these projects are carried out through the BNET, so we're discussing a number of these with our Chinese partners.
Can you give us an idea of the services BNET offers in the countries you have a presence?
Oh, they vary. It depends on the specific needs of the country we're in. Take, for example, Benin, where we are running exchange projects and building bridges. We're also building roads and a thermal plant there. As you know, Africa is in dire need of consistent electricity. We do our work through public-private partnerships. We've been able to get large investments working with private investors, meaning that the state doesn't have to spend. We built a thermal plant through the Build, Operate and Transfer BOT scheme. In Equatorial Guinea, we are overseeing the construction of a highway. We also construct buildings for both the public and private sectors. I can cite many other examples of projects where we're involved in across the continent. However, our priority areas so far have been roads, buildings and feasibility studies. We develop proposals, 3-year strategic development plans, and we monitor and evaluate these projects. So we're quite proactive when it comes to getting work done.
How is it that the BNET has been able to fit in so easily into these countries with cultures that are different to ours?
While Africa may be quite diverse, we actually are one. We share similar cultures. Firstly, we're acquainted with our own culture that we hail from. Once in the country, we try to understand the cultural specific environment, and we rely on our local agents and offices for further input.
How do you work with local engineers?
Local agents facilitate our collaboration. It's quite helpful as we get to appreciate one another. While we gain knowledge of the environment we're working in, working together we also grow together. We basically become comrades, associates, and professional collaborators.
So can we talk of a South-South partnership?
There truly is a South-South partnership that allows us as Africans to take ownership of our own development.
Thank you, Mr. Director General. Thanks also to the viewers. We've learned here that Africa's development is always possible through her children. As we have just seen, the BNET, the National Technical Studies and Development Office, is at a juncture of sharing knowledge and sustainable development on the African continent. Once a month, Think Development in Africa will get you to learn more about the topical development issues and projects taking shape across the continent, and the African experts behind this project. Till next time.